What's going on, guys? Tyler St. Ange with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the three questions you need to ask every single time you buy anything. We're probably going to be mostly talking about cars in this video, but three important questions you got to ask whoever, whatever you're buying, whatever, okay? 3 questions, right? And these 3 questions are important because you want to make sure you're not buying from a reseller. And the problem with buying with resellers is they might not be as honest as the person who actually owned it. If it's a reseller, there's probably not much more meat on the bone, and by that I mean not much profit margin. Even if it's a good deal, if you wanted to flip it, you're not going to have that much more wiggle room of profit. Yeah, and you don't know how long they've had it, and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to buy from resellers. You want to buy from the real deal. So 3 questions. Number 1, how long have you owned it? This is my favorite question because it's my favorite question because you're even on the replies, you're gonna have to kind of use your intuition if you believe it or not, because some people are like, I've owned this car since 2006. I bought it at the lot. And you're like, that's awesome, because I know you're not trying to make money, so you don't have a set low expectation for what you want. Everyone has that low that they'll go, but if it's someone who genuinely owned it, their bottom is going to be a lot less than what they think it is originally, especially if you show up with cash in hand. If you're messaging someone who's reselling a vehicle, they have a firm bottom. They're like, I can't sell it for less than this, or I'm not going to sell it, right? So you don't want to get in that kind of situation. So I love that question. How long have you owned it? If they say a year, sometimes these resellers will say a year, and once you start messaging people a lot, you'll start seeing names pop up more often. And then you'll start making the connection that person's a reseller, and whenever they tell you a year, they're just bull crapping you because they don't want you to know that you're a reseller, that they're a reseller. So anyways, you kind of got to use your best judgment on when it comes to when people say a year. All right, number 2, why are you selling? If you feel like you didn't get your question answered in the first question whenever they say a year, and you're still like, it's a little sketchy, why would you own a car for a year? The second question would be, why are you selling? And if it's, a lot of this is intuition, man. And that person that said a year, they'll be like, well, I just want to upgrade my car. It's like, why'd you only own it for a year if you only owned it for a year? You know what I mean? And you can start asking questions and be like, so what's wrong with it? Why are you selling it only a year of having it? Or why are you selling it when you've only had it for 6 months? Versus someone who's had it since 2006, it's 2020 now, and they legitimately are looking for another vehicle, right? So you got to use your intuition and critical thinking skills when you ask these questions, because people will pull one over on you if they get a chance, right? So that's why you got to ask these questions. If you just go in and say, oh, I see this car, I see this item, would you take $3,000? And they say yes, you didn't learn anything about the vehicle, you don't have any history, you don't know what's wrong with it, and even if you get there, they already know that you're invested in this and you want to give them $3,000, so they're just going to tell you whatever they want to hear. Do not bring up money first. Ask about what they are selling, how long they've owned it, all that stuff. Third question would be, if we're talking cars right now, third question would be, is it a clean title or a rebuild title? I have forgotten to ask that question I don't know how many times, right? And I've driven 2 hours to find out it's a rebuild title when I get there. And that is the worst, because then you have to make this super hard decision, because rebuild titles are so much harder to sell than a clean title, 100%. And it's because people can't get it insured sometimes. They're already sketched out because everyone thinks rebuild titles are terrible. They're not terrible. The hardest problem with rebuild titles is insurance. Some insurance companies don't want to insure a rebuild title for whatever reason. Like because it's been in an accident with a previous owner that makes it more liable to be in another accident. I don't know. You know what I mean? So those are the 3 questions that I would always ask. Never forget. All right. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I could say here? I cannot stress how important it is to ask questions about anything. This video is about cars, but this is with literally anything. If we want to go down this road of Apple Watches, these questions would work with Apple Watches. How long have you owned it? Let's say it's a Series 3. Series 3 Apple Watch has 2 different softwares. Originally, when it first came out, it could only work, I don't know which iPhone 6, because Apple Watches, when it went to the Series 3, something happened with the software where it only could work with one of the 6s, but not the other one. And then later on that year, they released another Series 3 with a better software update to where they're compatible with all 6s and up. And so wondering whenever they bought the 3 and what software on it has is important, because what if you had a 6, or if you're trying to sell to someone who owns a 6, then you need to know that. Another, why are you selling? You need to go into that, because what if they're selling because they bought it and it had an activation lock on it? They're not going to tell you that's why they're selling. But that's another thing you got to look out for on those Apple Watches is the activation lock. Because 1, they could have just not unpaired it from their phone, or 2, their iCloud could lock it because find my iPhone. Questions, man. Ask questions. I don't know how many times I've messed up. I've messed up with like 3 different Apple Watches. I've messed up driving 2 hours to a car that was a rebuild title and not getting it. I've drove 2 hours to a car that if I would have asked them more questions, I would have known everything that was wrong with it. And sometimes you'll ask all these questions and they will be so full of crap that whenever you finally get there, you see all the lies that they told you whenever you get there. I've had people tell me, oh, there's nothing wrong with this car, this thing is in mint condition, and you get there and like the back door is a completely different color than the rest of the vehicle, the engine's smoking when you drive, the brakes aren't working, something just stupid, the AC doesn't work, but it's in mint condition, man. You'll never find another vehicle like this. Dude, it's crazy, this whole reselling game. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't want to tell you about on YouTube or social media, is they glamorize all the great, because there is great. Like when you do good, you do good, but it's like there's obviously some risk in it, and I feel like everyone should know what they're getting into. You are dealing with people all the time when you do this, and you're going on somebody's word, or if you know the product, you can see through everything that person's telling you and you can go on. I've gotten really good at seeing through people's crap when they tell me about stuff, or I become very knowledgeable on certain items and I know what's wrong with it when I see it. And attention to detail, you need that. You need attention to detail. Just simple things as looking at the front of the vehicle and seeing that this headlight is like still new and then this one's messed up. That right there is a red flag. Probably was an accident. It doesn't always mean it was an accident, but it could mean that this side got hit and they had to replace it with a brand new headlight, and this side was fine, so they just didn't replace that. But it's attention to detail, because I've had that happen where 2 different mirrors, 2 different headlights, 2 different whatevers that I didn't notice until like a week after I already had the vehicle and I already paid for it, and I would have to explain that to the next owner. And so it's like you have to pay attention, man. Look everything over. An Xbox, I lost money on an Xbox last month. The power cord, didn't look at the prongs or anything. It was messed up, couldn't even go into a wall outlet. On top of that, it didn't even work. Like even I just got a different power cord, doesn't work. Anyways, hopefully you guys got some advice from this that you will take seriously and look out for. Just let me know if you have any other questions, like usual. You know what I mean? Subscribe, like, leave a comment below.